Today on the Morning Edition, the Epstein Transparency Act flew through Congress and is heading to President Trump's desk to be signed. But questions remain on when or if it will be, and if files will be released. We bring you the latest details from Washington. Plus, the Anchorage School Board met last night to vote on the proposal to close Fire Lake and Lake Otis elementary schools. We'll find out how the vote went and take a look at what brought us to this point. And later, we get a behind-the-scenes sneak peek at the newest Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade floats to join the lineup. We'll take you with us to get a preview of what to expect next week as the Morning Edition starts now. Well, Thanksgiving is right around the corner. Are you excited for the Macy's Day Parade?
Honestly, I haven't seen it in a couple of years because I'm still sleeping, but I do tend to catch the tail end of it, and it's always nice to see Santa because that truly ushers in the holiday season. Across, a good portion of the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we are waking up this morning. We are watching some dense fog that's settling in across parts of South Central. So take it easy on those roadways with temperatures below freezing this morning. That will be freezing fog that we are seeing. And not everyone is dealing with that. It's kind of patchy in nature when it comes to those foggy conditions. We're currently sitting at 26 degrees at Ted Stevens. And while temperatures this morning are waking up in the 20s, today will be one of the cooler afternoons that we'll see across South Central as inland locations may only stay in the upper 20s to the lower 30s this afternoon. Later, largely on the quiet side as we start off your Wednesday morning. Again, we are still holding on to some of that potential for some fog. This is out towards Lake Otis and Tudor. That fog beginning to settle into the region. So while visibility not much of a concern out towards Lake Otis and Tudor, you will see that fog steadily settle in. This is out towards C Street Bridge. You can see where that fog is beginning to thicken up. So give yourself plenty of time to get where you are going. And when we're talking about this fog being very patchy in nature, this is the Glen Highway out towards Palmer. You can see not much in the way of concern when it comes to those foggy conditions. So take it easy this morning. Some locations not expected to see fog, others will. And with that being the case, you will encounter some of those slick spots, particularly where we are seeing that freezing fog to start off your Wednesday morning. Temperatures today will warm their way upper 20s and lower 30s. We'll call it mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies for the first part of the day. And then by this evening, those clouds will increase and we'll see a gradual return to some possible snow showers overnight into tomorrow. Of course, one thing we're watching today, this next storm system building in across southeast, that will lead to some high wind concerns as well as some snowfall potential as you head into those higher elevations out towards Haines as well as Skagway. So be prepared for that here over the next couple of hours. I'll have more on that in that 7-day forecast for southeast coming up.
The bill to compel the Justice Department to release records related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has made it through Congress with overwhelming support, getting only a single no vote between both chambers. President Trump says he will sign it into law, but it's unclear where things go after that as the Department of Justice considers opening new investigations at the president's request into Democrats mentioned in the files. Alice Barr brings us the latest from Washington.
After decades of delays, a final sprint toward accountability, with the bill to force the release of the Justice Department's Epstein files headed to President Trump's desk after sailing through the House and Senate. Survivors of the notorious sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's abuse cheering Senate passage at a candlelight vigil.
The power of being heard and being recognized and being validated is incredibly healing.
Across both chambers, only one member, a Republican, voted no after months of resistance from the president and GOP leaders who pressed for other means of transparency, arguing this bill didn't do enough to protect victims' identities and could create new victims named in the files but cleared of any wrongdoing.
It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
President Trump, who in the end urged Republicans to pass the bill and said he would sign it, bristled at questions about why he doesn't just release the files now.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right.
The president has not been accused of any wrongdoing tied to Epstein's crimes, and survivors are underscoring their fight is not about politics.
What we endured was real, and it has scarred lives across 5 presidential administrations. The truth has been buried in sealed files and hidden records for far too long.
Those files set to be released by the Justice Department within 30 days of the president signing the bill into law.
President Trump also asked the Justice Department to investigate prominent Democrats who've been linked to Epstein, and that's raising some concerns now because any active federal investigation could prompt the DOJ to withhold certain documents that, if released, would jeopardize those new probes. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
The Anchorage School Board met and voted last night about the potential closure of 2 elementary schools, and both schools, as it turns out, will remain open. Fire Lake in Eagle River and Lake Otis Elementary School in Midtown will remain open at the end of this academic school year. After weeks of deliberation, public comments, and feedback from the community, the decision to keep Fire Lake open came down to 1 vote. Lake Otis remained open on a 6-1 vote.
I didn't think they were going to keep Fire Lake open until they said they were going to keep both schools open.
We are going to celebrate. I am going to tell them that democratic principles work here. Stand up for your rights. Be brave. Be strong. Don't hesitate. If you believe, go for it.
The night's vote caps months of emotional testimony, sharp disagreements, and difficult decisions for the district. Georgina Fernandez takes us through the path that brought this issue to a head.
It feels very frustrating.
It's a familiar sight and sound for the 3rd year in a row.
The idea that I think of my school closing, bad.
Anchorage schools are again facing the chopping block. This time, Fire Lake Elementary is on the list again, joined by Lake Otis, both due to low enrollment.
Now, why is that an issue? Because when schools continuously lose enrollment, they lose services. So these are schools that would be more likely to have a combination classroom, more likely to share services with another elementary school.
The proposed closures are part of the district's right-sizing ASD initiative, aimed at consolidating schools or repurposing buildings. Each closed school, the district estimates, could save them between $300,000 to $800,000 annually.
It seems to me Anchorage School District is short-sighted. They're looking at what the flashy solutions are for budgeting crisis.
I understand that this is a deeply emotional process, and every single one of our buildings represents something special.
That emotional process being felt once again.
It's very emotional for a lot of people, for a lot of families.
As families across the district wait to see if their child's school joins the list. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
Last night, the Anchorage Assembly met, and on the agenda was the sales tax proposal that Mayor Suzanne LaFrance put forward. Now, that sales tax has been set for a public hearing. There wasn't a full discussion on the potential tax. That was moved forward as part of the Assembly's consent agenda, which allows the Assembly to move large amounts of work and set them for public hearings easily. That hearing has been set for the regular Assembly meeting on December 2nd. What was taken up at this meeting was the operating budget. One topic of discussion was transportation, with members looking at expanding funding for anchor moves to add 1 additional free weekday for people that are 65 or older. But the viewpoints varied on whether the expansion is warranted.
I am told that we're facing a fiscal cliff. I am told that we have a revenue problem. I am told that we are in a state of needing to tighten our belts. And yet I see that we're adding and expanding a program.
So I believe this is well worth the investment to understand how Anchor Ride's ridership changes if seniors have the opportunity to ride the bus for free. Potentially making Anchor Rides a program that costs the municipality less, and on the whole, I think that's a win.
For a breakdown of the budget discussions tonight, head on over to our website or mobile app.
As it's a business meeting, we're here to conduct the work of the municipality.
The case of an Anchorage man accused of killing a well-known homeless man went to the jury after days of graphic testimony and clashing arguments. Jurors found Ryan Dumler guilty of killing John Martin, with sentencing expected sometime in late March. Lauren Maxwell was in court for the closing arguments.
John Martin III died in June of 2023 behind the Global Credit Union off Diamond Boulevard. Martin was a convicted sex offender who gained notoriety in 2011 for protesting homeless policies in front of City Hall, and national headlines in 2018 when he tried to sail a small boat to China but landed in Russia instead. Prosecutors say at the time of his death, Martin was homeless and sleeping outside.
A helpless, defenseless man laying on the ground, sleeping, bothering no one. And he killed him.
Ryan Dumler is charged with killing Martin.
This is a parking lot. Backs up to this curb right here.
Assistant Attorney General Daniel Shorey walked jurors through a series of security videos he says shows Dumler approaching Martin, arguing, then shooting him several times. Shorey detailed other evidence, including a black backpack.
That's what he had on him?
Confiscated from Dumler. Inside, a jacket that appeared to be the same from the video, and a gun an expert testified matched shell casings from the scene.
The murder weapon that was fired 8 times by Ryan Dumler when he killed an unarmed John Martin for no reason.
Dumler never took the stand, and defense attorney Rex Butler called no witnesses. In closing arguments, Butler said the state didn't prove Dumler's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
It is not enough that you believe a defendant is probably or likely, or even that the evidence shows a strong probability of guilt. The law requires more.
But jurors didn't hesitate. It took them less than 3 hours to find Dumler guilty on all counts, including murder in the first degree. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
In Fairbanks, a deadly fire on McGrath Road this past weekend is a painful reminder of winter heating dangers. According to investigators, it was preventable. An open wood stove firebox ignited nearby materials, and the lack of working smoke and CO detectors meant no early warning. One person inside the home did not survive, as well as a pet. Fire officials remind us that simple precautions can save lives, and they offer these critical safety tips.
Keep flammable materials away from open heat sources. Monitor your cooking. Make sure nothing's left on the stovetop for a duration without being checked on. Nothing in the oven without being checked on. And that goes back to your smoke detectors being operational.
Beyond detectors, officials urge you to check wood stove seals and be mindful of pets or children around open flames. In South Anchorage, firefighters raced to a home on Hideaway Lake Drive just after 6 last night, arriving within minutes of the call. The homeowner made it out safely, but told crews 2 dogs were still trapped in the lower level. The first responders found the 2 young black labs and freed them. The dogs took off running, but were later rounded up by the owners. With no hydrants on the hillside, crews set up a tender operation between Service High School and the scene to keep water flowing. Firefighters remained on the scene late into the evening. No injuries have been reported. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Over this past weekend, the Alaska motor racing community suffered a tragic loss with the passing of Earl Lackey at 85 years old. We'll take a look back over his life after this.
Stormy weather continues out west. Meanwhile, we've got some high wind concerns through southeast. I'll have more on that. But first at sunrise, 9:17 in Anchorage, 7:56 in Juneau. Your full forecast is next.
Aaron, it's midweek. It's the middle of our week. What is our temperatures looking like? What is our day going to look like today?
All right, we're still holding on to some of those warmer conditions across South Central. Of course, as you get on the roads this morning, you will encounter some of that freezing fog across parts of South Central. So just take note of that. Give yourself plenty of time to get out the door. That fog is very patchy in nature, and not everyone will encounter it. Notice as you head out towards western Alaska, that area of low pressure that's pushing into the Chukchi Sea. That was that storm that did bring some gusty conditions across western Alaska. We do have a brief lull in the pattern this morning, but another low will sweep back in later today, and that's going to reinforce those windy conditions. More snow to be expected, and possibly even some areas of wintry mix out towards southwest Alaska. Meanwhile, out towards southeast, this area of low pressure will build into eastern parts of the Gulf of Alaska. That's going to lead to some gusty winds as well as some rain and snow for parts of the Panhandle. Now, when it comes to those weather alerts across the state, still seeing many areas across western Alaska with that winter storm warning, winter weather advisory. Out towards Bristol Bay, Dillingham, a winter weather advisory was just issued, where we are expected to see some snow accumulation throughout the remainder of today and into tomorrow. Of course, one thing we are watching throughout the day is some high winds for the Panhandle. Those locations up under the high wind warning will see that potential for winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Meanwhile, across northern parts of the Panhandle, we've got some winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories. This continues either later tonight into tomorrow, depending on where you live, but we're largely expecting to see about 5 to 6 inches of snow accumulation. Travel could be difficult, and we're going to see some of that best snow chances in those higher elevations along the Klondike Highway, Haynes Highway. So that's where we are going to encounter that better opportunity for seeing some snow. Temperatures are warm this morning, particularly as you head towards the south. Upper 40s and lower 50s is what we're seeing. 51 degrees in Sitka, 44 in Ketchikan. Meanwhile, to the north, where we're going to see that chance for some snow, those temperatures are holding in the mid-30s this morning. In fact, Juneau has been seeing that switch back and forth between a rain-snow mix. And we are going to continue to favor some heavier rain spreading across the Panhandle throughout the day. Notice far northern reaches of the Panhandle, including out towards Hyder, possibly holding on to that better chance for seeing some snow today, while the rest of southeast holds on to that rainfall potential. And locations that do see rain will see that opportunity for about 1 to 2 inches here over the next couple of days. And again, if you live out towards the northern parts of the Panhandle, which remains up under those winter weather alerts, you will see that potential for up to a half a foot of snow accumulation. As Thursday draws to a close, notice that rain kind of tapers off, and we'll see a lull in that weather pattern. So we will see some dry conditions by Thursday evening. So we will be watching for that. But those temperatures, for the most part, staying in the 40s. We'll keep widespread rain around. Now, notice those overnight lows dropping down near freezing. So we could see that occasional opportunity each morning and late into the night where we could see a opportunity switching to some wintry mix, but largely expecting rain for Juneau and surrounding areas. You can see by Sunday on into next week, those temperatures do drop. We'll see a chance for some wintry mix Sunday, and then we're going to be talking about highs potentially middle of next week, dropping down into the low to mid 30s.
As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the birth of America, we're looking back at our history, particularly our history here in Alaska. Director of Photography Eric Soul shows us the highlights from this week in Alaska history.
This week in Alaska history, we've got a lot of good history this week. We always do. Alaska is such a deep and wonderful place. We got a couple stories about military history and Alaska's impact by World War II, a couple of large construction projects involving the Alcan and the Whittier Tunnel, the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel. We have an Alaska Native leader who lived to be 117 years old. And some of his words were, do not ignore each other, take care of each other. We also have a frontier literature author who passed away this week in Alaska history. You may know some of his novels, Call the Wild and White Fang. That's all in Alaska history this week, and you can check it out on our free streaming platforms.
And you can find all of our This Week in Alaska History segments on our free streaming platforms on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, or Roku. And over the weekend, the Alaska motor racing community lost a legend with the passing of Earl Lackey at the age of 85 on Sunday. Arriving in Alaska as a farmer in the 80s, it didn't take long for him to find fellow motorheads and get behind the wheel at Alaska Raceway in Wasilla, where by the mid-90s, he took over ownership of the park. It was around then he earned the title as one of the fathers of motor racing in Alaska for his involvement and expansion of the park.
One of my greatest memories on race day, of course, is
being there at 7 o'clock in the morning and Dad pulls in and he's got his chocolate milk and he's ready to go to work and start prepping the track and getting it ready. And one of his favorite roles at the track at the end was just being the janitor. You know, I got to handle the management side of things, and it was his job to come out and make sure that the race surface was prepped and ready to go, and that the oval track was clean and ready to go, and that everything was ready for the racers to come out and have a good time.
A staple in the Alaska motor racing community, Lackey devoted his life to the raceway, expanding the classes and land, including a paved oval built to NASCAR track standards, for which Michelle says he mortgaged his home for at the age of 75.
He wants to continue to have a place where families can come and enjoy racing, whether they're spectators or whether they're participants. We have multiple generations of racers out at the track, and racing is a big part of the American history, and we want to make sure that that continues to grow and to be. And his legacy is Alaska Raceway Park.
Michelle added that Earl will be honored at the track this summer as his legacy lives on at Alaska Raceway Park.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically, and stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.